Brock Lesnar and Bronson Reed destroy Seth Rollins' YouTube script. The most shocking alliance in WWE history just formed right before our eyes as Brock Lesnar and Bronson Reed united to absolutely destroy Seth Rollins in the most brutal double-cross ever witnessed. And if you're not absolutely seething with rage at this disgusting betrayal, you clearly don't understand how completely Seth's world just collapsed. What we witnessed wasn't just a betrayal, it was the systematic annihilation of a champion by two monsters who proved that in WWE, trust is a weakness that gets exploited. The sight of Bronson Reed, the man Seth Rollins considered an ally, the man he trusted to watch his back, turning on him and joining forces with Brock Lesnar to commit what can only be described as attempted murder on live television will be replayed for decades as one of the most heinous acts of betrayal in wrestling history. "Reed, what are you doing?" Seth's anguished scream wasn't just shock at being betrayed, it was the soul-crushing realization that everything he believed about loyalty, friendship, and trust in WWE was a lie. The look of absolute devastation on his face as Reed's massive frame blocked his escape will haunt wrestling fans forever. You want to talk about moments that redefine cruelty and betrayal? This wasn't just Bronson Reed turning heel, this was the orchestration of the most one-sided destruction in WWE history, with two superhuman monsters combining their power to reduce a former world champion to a broken mess of blood and broken bones. The setup for this betrayal was so perfectly executed that even the smartest wrestling fans were completely blindsided. For weeks, Bronson Reed had been positioning himself as Seth's ally against Brock Lesnar's reign of terror, earning Seth's trust through seemingly genuine acts of friendship and support. But it was all a lie. Every handshake, every supportive promo, every moment where Reed pretended to have Seth's back was part of an elaborate conspiracy designed to get close to the champion so he could deliver the ultimate betrayal at the worst possible moment. The most devastating aspect of this alliance is how perfectly Brock and Reed complement each other's destructive capabilities. Brock's unmatched power and suplex arsenal combined with Reed's 330-pound frame and devastating tsunami splash creates a combination that no single wrestler can possibly survive. Here's a question that's going to separate the casual fans from those who understand wrestling psychology. Did you catch the smile on Bronson Reed's face the moment before he turned on Seth, revealing he had been planning this betrayal all along? The actual attack was so brutal and one-sided that it felt less like a wrestling angle and more like witnessing an actual crime. The moment Seth realized what was happening, he tried to fight back against both monsters, but the mathematical reality was crushing. One man cannot overcome two 300-pound killing machines. Brock's first German suplex sent Seth crashing across the ring like a rag doll. And before he could even process what was happening, Bronson Reed was charging at him with a running senton that drove every ounce of air from his lungs. The coordination between these two monsters was absolutely terrifying. But the most sickening moment came when they started taking turns destroying different parts of Seth's body. Brock would suplex him onto his neck and shoulders, then Reed would splash him to destroy his ribs and internal organs. The systematic nature of the assault proved this wasn't spontaneous, this was planned torture. The medical personnel who eventually rushed to Seth's aid reported that they had never seen someone take that much punishment in such a short period of time. Multiple German suplexes, repeated sentons, and the devastating combination of an F5 directly into a tsunami splash created injuries that could potentially end Seth's career. Quick question for the physics experts, can you even calculate how much force was generated when Brock F5'd Seth and Reed immediately followed with a tsunami splash while he was still airborne? The most infuriating aspect of this betrayal is why Bronson Reed chose to align with Brock Lesnar. According to backstage sources, Reed had been secretly negotiating with Paul Heyman for weeks, being promised main event opportunities in championship matches if he helped Brock destroy his enemies. The revelation that Paul Heyman was the architect of this entire conspiracy adds another layer of sophistication to the betrayal. The wise man had apparently identified Reed as the perfect weapon, someone with the size and power to match Brock, but also the cunning to play the long game and earn Seth's trust. But the most shocking detail is that other wrestlers apparently knew about this alliance and chose to say nothing. Multiple performers have admitted that they noticed suspicious meetings between Reed and Heyman but assumed it was just contract negotiations. The failure to warn Seth makes them complicit in his destruction. The backstage footage from after the attack is absolutely heartbreaking. Seth is being loaded into an ambulance, his body broken and his spirit crushed, while Brock and Reed stand in the ring celebrating their unholy alliance like they just accomplished something heroic instead of committing aggravated assault. Here's another question for the moral philosophy experts. At what point does creating shocking entertainment cross the line into glorifying violence and betrayal in ways that send terrible messages to viewers? The most disturbing aspect of this alliance is how it fundamentally changes the power structure of WWE. When two of the most dominant physical specimens in wrestling history decide to work together, who can possibly stop them? The answer is genuinely terrifying, probably nobody. The mathematical reality of facing Brock Lesnar and Bronson Reed simultaneously is that survival becomes impossible. Even the strongest wrestlers in WWE would struggle to overcome just one of these monsters, but facing both at the same time creates a scenario where defeat isn't just likely, it's absolutely guaranteed. But perhaps the most infuriating development is how Bronson Reed has been justifying his betrayal on social media. Instead of showing any remorse or acknowledging the cowardice of his actions, he's been posting about how Seth got what he deserved and how only the strong survive in WWE. The victim-blaming and complete lack of accountability reveals Reed to be not just a traitor but a sociopath who genuinely believes that betraying someone's trust is somehow admirable behavior. The twisted morality on display is absolutely nauseating. The investigation into how this alliance formed reveals months of secret communication between Brock, Reed, and Paul Heyman. Phone records show hundreds of calls and messages discussing strategy, timing, and exactly how to inflict maximum physical and psychological damage on Seth Rollins. Here's a question for the conspiracy theorists: do you think WWE management knew about this alliance ahead of time and allowed it to happen for the shock value, or were they genuinely surprised by this development? The most shocking revelation is that this betrayal was just the beginning of Brock and Reed's plan to dominate WWE. Sources suggest they're targeting multiple champions and top stars, planning to systematically destroy anyone who stands in their way of complete roster domination. The hit list that was allegedly found in Reed's locker room includes names of virtually every main event star in WWE. Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Gunther. Nobody is safe from this unholy alliance that has declared war on the entire WWE roster. But the most terrifying aspect is that neither Brock nor Reed seems to have any limits on how far they're willing to go. The brutality they displayed against Seth was just a preview of the carnage they're planning to unleash on anyone foolish enough to stand against them. The psychological profile of what drives two alpha predators to work together is fascinating and disturbing. Typically, dominant personalities like Brock and Reed would clash over territory and status, but somehow Paul Heyman has convinced them that destroying everyone else serves both their interests. Here's a question for the team dynamics experts: how long can an alliance between two dominant alphas like Brock Lesnar and Bronson Reed possibly last before they inevitably turn on each other? The most infuriating response has come from Paul Heyman, who has been giving interviews explaining his strategy with the smugness of someone who just pulled off the crime of the century. "I identified the two most destructive forces in WWE and united them under my guidance," he bragged. "Nobody can stop what we've created." The arrogance and sadistic pleasure Heyman displays while discussing Seth's destruction proves he's not just a manager, he's a master manipulator who derives genuine enjoyment from orchestrating the downfall of wrestlers who trusted the wrong people. But the most devastating consequence of this alliance is how it has affected Seth Rollins' mental state. Sources close to him report that the physical injuries are severe, but the psychological trauma of being betrayed by someone he considered an ally may be even worse. The trust issues that will result from this betrayal could affect Seth's ability to form alliances in the future. When you've been burned this badly by someone you trusted, how do you ever risk trusting anyone again? The psychological scars may never fully heal. The medical update on Seth's condition is absolutely concerning. Multiple cracked ribs, severe spinal trauma, potential internal injuries, and a grade 3 concussion are just the beginning of the damage inventory. The combination of Brock's suplexes and Reed's crushing weight has created injuries that could take months to heal. Here's a question for the medical experts: based on the punishment Seth absorbed, what's a realistic timeline for his return to action, and will he ever be the same performer after this level of trauma? The most shocking development is that WWE officials are reportedly considering whether to take disciplinary action against Brock and Reed for excessive violence. The level of brutality displayed has apparently crossed lines that even WWE's loosest standards find problematic. But the investigation into potential punishment is complicated by the fact that this attack has generated massive ratings and social media engagement. WWE is facing the ethical dilemma of whether to punish behavior that was morally questionable but financially successful. The fan reaction to this alliance has been absolutely divided. Some viewers are praising the shocking storytelling and the creation of an unstoppable monster heel team, while others are genuinely disgusted by the glorification of betrayal and the celebration of extreme violence. The debate about whether this alliance elevates wrestling or degrades it reveals fundamental disagreements about what WWE should represent. Is this the kind of shocking entertainment fans want, or has it crossed into territory that's genuinely harmful to the industry's image? Here's a final question for the entire WWE universe: do you think Brock Lesnar and Bronson Reed's alliance represents the evolution of wrestling storytelling, or is it a dangerous precedent that normalizes betrayal and extreme violence? The coming weeks will reveal whether anyone in WWE has the courage and capability to stand against this unholy alliance. Roman Reigns and the Bloodline seem like the only faction with enough power to potentially challenge Brock and Reed, but even they might struggle against two such dominant physical forces. The most important question is whether Seth Rollins will ever recover, physically, mentally, and emotionally, from the devastating betrayal and destruction he endured. This attack didn't just injure his body, it shattered his ability to trust and potentially destroyed his confidence in ways that could end his career. The wrestling world has a new most dangerous alliance, and nobody is safe from Brock Lesnar and Bronson Reed's campaign of destruction. The betrayal of Seth Rollins was just the beginning of a reign of terror that could reshape WWE forever.